It's also important to understand where you are as an organization, because as you start to mature as an organization and you have more complexity in the different leads that you reach out to, it becomes a lot more of an operations games. It's exactly like stuff that you've heard, like, hey, how do we reach out to lost opportunities, and what are what's the Venn diagram of the perfect fit? But early on, sometimes we don't have that data. And as you mature, you're going to be collecting that data, you're going to be using it to improve your outreach over time. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people achieve, but that's what you need to be working towards, is how do I improve my cold outreach over time? Here's how I'd recommend to do it. And I'll start from the very beginning, and then I'll kind of stretch this out into as you're starting to mature. So in the very beginning, the list is a critical component of your team's success. And a lot of organizations, they'll run a list in ZoomInfo, send it to the SDRs, and cross their fingers like this. And when it doesn't work out, they go, oh, what's going on? It's because we didn't invest enough time in the list. You should invest as much money and time as you can into getting the list correct. You should be using ZoomInfo to figure out what the right leads are. You should be having a human go through and verify that those leads are qualified. So then that way you have a bucket of leads that you're confident from all available external information, from literally looking at those company websites. You have a list of, let's say, 1,000 companies, just for an example, 1,000 companies where you're like, these are the companies. I know that we can sell to those companies. Some of them will get filtered out. Stuff always kind of gets in there, some junk, but we feel very confident because we've audited every single one of these. From there, then you're really enriching the people who work at those companies. So how I do it is we run that initial list into ZoomInfo. We have someone human verify that these companies are the right fit by looking at their websites and their LinkedIns. Then we match those companies in ZoomInfo to the people who work there, right? You find all of the contacts. Who are the right people for us to reach out to? Maybe it's a CEO, CMO, maybe there's VPs in there, whoever your targets are, you run a list of those targets, and then you give those leads to your reps. So the reps have companies that we've looked at and we're confident are the right fit. So their activities are going towards the right places. So that's really the first critical component. From there, it's about organizing leads as you're calling through them, or you're reaching out to them on LinkedIn, or you're sending cold email. You're organizing those leads based on your engagement with those leads. This is how I do it. I have a bucket for all leads that are brand new and not been touched yet. That's called open. And this would be a lead status built into your CRM. And then as you do outreach, they get moved into working. These are all of the leads we're actively reaching out to, but we haven't spoken to anybody there yet through our cold calls. They've not replied to any emails. The next is prospect. This means we spoke to them, or we got a response from an email, but we did not book a meeting. Then there's meeting booked, and then there's bad data, and then disqualified. So as your team's doing the outreach, they're putting them in these different buckets. And over time, the distribution of activity each rep is doing is going to change from primarily these cold, never been reached out to before leads. Those are those open leads, to the prospect leads, which are people who've answered the phone before, people who've replied to an email. And what you see, so to go back to the data that Jason shared in the beginning, if we cold call a random cold list, we're going to get a 5% dial to connect rate. That means I make 100 calls, I speak to 5 people. If you call people who've answered the phone before, all of a sudden that becomes 25 to 35%. Radically changes your math. And for those leaders in the room, that's one of the key metrics for an outbound SDR team. What's our dial to connect rate? And if I can drive that number up, then we're going to have incredible outcomes, because it completely changes the math and the volume that we're doing. So that's tactically how I would organize that. And then, of course, as you mature as an organization, those data points get a lot more complicated.